So dear students, we are about to start about this new chapter, and let me tell you, this is a very easy chapter and a very small chapter, and you will understand it very easily, students. And basically it is not a chapter of science if you strictly see. This is just a chapter to make you aware of our surroundings, of our forests, of our wildlife and things like that. Okay students, so the name of the chapter is Management of Natural Resources. So students, what is the meaning of this word resources? What is the meaning of the word resources? Students, resources are things which are actually useful to us in whatever ways. Resources are things which are useful to us in whatever ways. And natural means provided by nature. Provided by nature. Right? So resources means something useful to us, and natural means provided by nature. So what is the meaning of this entire term natural resources? So natural resources will mean something that is useful to us and has been provided by nature. Something which is useful to us and has been provided by nature. So let me first of all define natural resources. Natural resources are things provided to us by nature. Provided to us by whom? By whom? By nature, which can be used to fulfill our needs. Okay students, so natural resources are things provided to us by nature which can be used to fulfill our needs. Now students, let us see some examples of natural resources. So students, one very good example of natural resources is forests and wildlife. Forests and wildlife, students, they have been provided by nature, right? They have been provided by nature and they are very useful to us. Very useful to us. So they are natural resources. For examples, how are forests useful for us? Can you tell me? From forests we get wood, which is very useful to us. From forests we get a lot of food products like fruits, nuts. You know, we can eat them. They are very useful to us. Then from forests we get a lot of plants from which medicine can be made. That's why forests are very useful. So forests and wildlife, they have been provided to us by nature and they are of great use to us. So they will be considered natural resources. Natural resources. Something provided by nature and useful to us. Okay students. Next example of natural resource can be water, students. Water. Water is provided to us by nature through rivers, lakes, ponds and whatever things. And they are extremely useful to us because we cannot live without water, right? We drink water. If we don't drink water, we cannot live. So obviously water is something provided by nature and it is very useful to us. So water is another great example of natural resources. Next very good example of natural resource is coal and petroleum, students. Coal and petroleum. They are once again provided by nature and they are very useful to us. How they are useful to us? You know students, these are things which are used to provide us energy. These are the things which give us energy, and on this energy only our automobiles like cars, scooters, trucks, you know, these things run. Even our industries need coal and petroleum for running. So students, these are another things which have been provided by nature and very useful to us. So these are examples of natural resources, right students? So what are the examples of natural resources? Forests and wildlife, water, coal and petroleum, students. But very sadly, students, these natural resources are in danger today. These natural resources are in danger today. How, students? See, forests and wildlife, they are being destroyed, students. Forests and wildlife are being destroyed. Trees are being cut, students, right? Trees are being cut for different regions. We'll see it ahead in this chapter. Wildlife, animals are being killed. Animals are being killed. So these forests and wildlife, they are in danger, students. Water is also in danger. Why water is in danger? Because we are polluting water by dumping waste materials in water, right students? We are polluting water by dumping waste materials in water. These waste materials are coming from our industries, from our houses, right? And they are polluting water bodies, students. So water is also in danger. It is getting polluted. Coal and petroleum, students. We are using excessive use of coal and petroleum. Excessive use of coal and petroleum, students. Due to which they are about to finish. So they are also in danger. So students, all our natural resources are actually in danger. Forests and wildlife, We are cutting forests, killing animals for our uses too much. Water, we are polluting it. Coal and petroleum, we are doing excessive use of these things. So all these natural resources are in danger, students. That's why we need to do management of natural resources. That's why we need to do management of natural resources. Management of natural resources means that we need to use these natural resources in a well defined, structured manner, right? We need to use these natural resources in a very good manner so that they remain protected and we can use them for a very, very long time, students. That is what we are going to study in this chapter, that how we can manage our natural resources nicely, right? How we can manage our natural resources nicely so that they can last in a proper manner for a long, long time, students. So students, we need to manage our natural resources for following reasons, The first reason is that they are limited. They are limited, students. So students, let us talk about forests. Forests are limited. How are they limited, students? See, if you keep cutting forests like this, then one day they will be all over, isn't it? See, students, if you keep cutting down trees day by day, if you keep cutting down trees, what will happen? All the forests will be over one day. So students, in that way, forests are limited. So we need to manage our forests wisely. Otherwise, they will be over one day. Right, students? Same is the case with coal and petroleum, students. Coal and petroleum are also limited. But students, you know that we are making excessive use of them in our industries and automobiles. Right? So if we keep doing that, one day they will be totally over and we will have no coal, no petroleum. So we need to manage them wisely, students. Right? So there are many natural resources which are limited. And that's why we need to manage them wisely, students. Then students, there are some natural resources which may not be limited. For example, water. Water is definitely not limited. We have lots and lots of water on the surface of Earth. But students, the problem here is that we are polluting water. How we are polluting? By dumping a lot of waste into it. So we are polluting water, students. So if we keep polluting water, we will have no clean water to drink. Isn't it, students? So we need to manage our natural resources properly so that we don't pollute them. Fine, students. Now the next reason is that we are not using resources in environment friendly way. Look at this photograph, students. This is a chimney. Of a factory. So in this factory, we must be burning coal or petroleum. And that's why all this smoke is coming out of the chimney. And you see, students, this smoke is actually mixing with the environment and polluting it, right? This smoke from the chimney will pollute the air here, right? So that's what I'm trying to say you, that we are not using resources in environment friendly way. And it is not a good thing because our environment is getting polluted. So this is a reason why we need to manage our natural resources wisely, because we are not using these resources. In environment friendly way. Next, students. See, natural resources should be equally distributed to all. See, students, natural resources are something which has been provided to us by our nature, right? So everybody on this earth, all the human beings, all the animals, they have equal right on these natural resources because they have been provided by nature. So everybody has equal right on these natural resources. But today these natural resources are not equally divided among all. Some people have more access to natural resources and some have less. Generally rich people have more access to natural resources and poor don't have, which is not a good thing, students, because natural resources have been provided by nature, so they should be equally available to all. Right, students? So natural resources should be equally distributed to all. So these are some of the reasons, students, for which we should manage our natural resources in a proper manner. What are the reasons? They are limited, they are available in a limited amount, we are polluting them, we are not using resources in environment friendly manner, and lastly, natural resources should be equally distributed to all. Okay students, so you get my points here. So now students, we are actually going to talk about forests and wildlife. So we have seen different examples of natural resources, and first of all we are going to concentrate on this natural resource, that is forest and wildlife students, because it's a very important natural resource. So students, first of all let's understand this term that is called biodiversity hotspot. Biodiversity hotspot. See students, sometimes forests are called biodiversity hotspot. Why students? See, in a forest you can find different type of animals students, different type of plants, isn't it? You can find different type of animals like snakes, tigers, apes, wolves, frogs, and so many different type of animals students. You can find different type of birds, different type of butterflies and insects, different type of plants. So students, you can find different forms of life in forests, and that's why forests are called biodiversity hotspot, because you can find different types of life in forests. So students, we can write this down. So biodiversity means availability of large number of different living creatures, right students? Biodiversity means availability of large number of different living creatures. As in forests, huge variety of living creatures like animals, plants, birds, insects, etc. are found in abundance. Forests are called biodiversity hotspots, right students? So you understand clearly why forests are called biodiversity hotspots, and you also understand what is the meaning of this term biodiversity, isn't it students? Now, protecting forest means protecting its biodiversity, right students? So if we are talking about protecting forests, we are actually talking about protecting its biodiversity. We are actually talking about protecting its animals. We are talking about protecting its birds. We are talking about protecting its insects. We are talking about protecting its plants, right students? So when we are talking about protecting forests, we mean protecting its biodiversity, right students? Protecting the organisms or creatures living in the forest. It is necessary to protect biodiversity for a stable ecosystem. First of all students, look at this term called ecosystem. In previous classes and previous chapters we have seen the meaning of this, and I'm sure you remember that what is the meaning of ecosystem. So students, if we want to keep ecosystem stable and healthy, all these organisms need to live. All these animals and plants need to live, right students? If any of these animals or plants are not there in the forest, then the ecosystem will be disturbed students. For example students, I'm sure you must be knowing that these tigers are in great danger today students. They're in great danger. They may be extinct from earth, and if they are extinct from earth, they will disturb the ecosystem of the entire forest, right students? So it is necessary to protect biodiversity for a stable ecosystem students. Okay, so it is necessary to protect different varieties of animals and plants living in the forest students. You understand? But who is going to protect forests? Who is going to protect forests students? Are you going to protect forests students? Are you going to protect forests? Am I going to protect forests students? No students. People like us are not going to protect forests. Why? Tell me, how many times have you gone to forest in your entire life? How many times have you gone to forest in your entire life? Maybe 2 times, 3 times, 4 times maximum. For your picnics, right students? So we normal people go to forest only very often for making our picnics and all. So we are not the people who are going to protect forests. Some other people are going to protect forest students. So students, now we'll talk about them. People who are going to protect our forests. Stakeholders students. Stakeholders of forests are going to protect our forests students. You must be thinking, what is the meaning of this word stakeholders? right? You must be thinking, what is the meaning of this word stakeholders? So see students, stakeholders are people with concern or interest in something. Stakeholders are people with concern or interest in something. So people having concern or interest in forests will be called stakeholders of forests, right? People having concern and interest in forests will be called stakeholders of forests. So now let us look at the thing that who are these people? Who are these people having interest in forests? Who are these people? So students, first such people are people living in and around forests. People living in and around forests, right? See students, it's a very simple thing that people who are actually living in and around forests would depend on forests for different things. We'll see that in detail later on. But you can clearly think that if there are a bunch of people who are living in and around forests, they will be depending on forests for different things, for their livelihood. So if they are dependent on forests, definitely they will be interested in forests. They will definitely be interested in protecting forests, right? So these are stakeholders of forests. These are stakeholders of forests. People living in and around forests. Because they have interest in forests, so we'll call them stakeholders of forests. Then the next stakeholders are businessmen who require forest products for their factories. Okay students, so who are the next stakeholders of forests? Businessmen who require forest products for their factories. See students, there are many factories which need forest products. For example, you can think of furniture factory, right students? It will need lot of wood to run, right students? So if a businessman is running factories of furnitures, then definitely he will have to take interest in forests, because his business is running on forests, isn't it students? So businessmen who require forest products for their factories have interest in forests, and they are also stakeholders of forest, students, right? Then students, the next stakeholders are forest department of government. So students, government has made a forest department which is supposed to take care of forests. So obviously this department has to take interest in forests. So this department is a stakeholder of forest, students. You understand the point? Then finally students, we have forest and wildlife activists. So students, first of all, you need to understand who are these people. Who are these people? Forest and wildlife activists. So students, these are people having true love for forest and wildlife. They have true love for forest and wildlife. Okay students, so these are the people who want to protect forest and wildlife just because they love forest and wildlife. They as such have no financial gains from forests. They are not being paid for protecting forests and wildlife. They just love forest and wildlife, and that's why they want to protect it, students. So these are also stakeholders in forest, students, right? See students, these people, forest and wildlife activists, they mainly want to protect big animals like lions, tigers, elephants. So generally these people are more interested in protecting these animals. But these people very well know that if they want to protect these animals, they have to protect the entire forest. They have to protect the entire forest. Fine students. So by now we know all the stakeholders of forest. Who are these stakeholders, students? You must remember, first, people living in and around forests. Second, businessmen who require forest products for their factories. Third, students, forest department of government. And fourth, students, forest and wildlife activists. So students, now we are going to see that how these stakeholders, how these different type of people actually take interest in forests and how they help us in protecting our forests. Okay students. So let us first of all talk about the first stakeholders, students. People living in and around forests. People living in and around forest. How they use forest. So first of all, let us see how these people living in and around forest use forest. Okay students, they live in and around forest and they use forest for various purposes. But how? So students, let's see. For wood, for burning to get heat in winter and cooking. So students, this is a very simple point, students, that they use forest for wood, right students? They obtain wood from forests and then they burn it. Why they burn it? To get heat, students, in winter and also for cooking, right students? So this is something which has been going on for ages, right? Right students? That people living around forest use wood from forest for burning the wood, and by burning the wood they get heat in winter and they also use this heat for cooking, students, right? Then wood for help in agriculture, students. So once again they obtain wood from forest and this wood actually helps them in agricultural activities. Then they obtain fruits, nuts and medicinal herbs from forest, students. Then they also take wood from forest to make their huts, students. You can see this photograph, students. You know, these are people living around forests and you can see their huts that is made up of wood. And this wood has been obtained from the forest behind them. Fine, students. Then they use forest for grazing cattle. So you can see, students, this is cattle of these people and you know, they are grazing in forest, students, right? So these are the different ways in which people living around forest use forest. You must remember them. What are these ways? They obtain wood from forest and they burn the wood to get heat in winter and for cooking. Then they obtain wood from forest also for help in agriculture. They obtain fruits, nuts and medicinal herbs from forest. They obtain wood from forest to make their huts and they graze their cattle in forest. So now, students, you must be thinking that these people are harming forests a lot. How are they harming it, students? See, they are taking wood. They are taking wood from forest. See, they are taking wood for this purpose, for this purpose, for this purpose, right? So they are taking lot of wood from forest. So they must be cutting a lot of trees, students. So they are destroying our forest, right? You must be thinking like that, students. But that's not true. That's not true, students. These people do not harm forests. These people do not harm forests. See, they do not cut trees, students. They do not cut trees. They cut only branches of trees. Very important, students. These people do not harm forests. They do not cut trees. They do not cut the complete tree. They only cut branches of trees to obtain wood. Now, by doing this, they are not harming forests. See, these people are only cutting branches, students. There is no harm in cutting branches because they will grow again. They will grow again. If you cut the entire tree, then it cannot grow again. But if you just cut the branches of trees, then there is no problem. Tree is still intact and the branches will again grow. So students, these people are using a lot of wood from forests, but they are not harming the forest. They are not harming the forest. You understand? See, they have been living with forests for centuries. They know how to maintain forest. They know how to use forest in a healthy manner so that forests are not harmed. Right, students? You understand the point? See, students, in India, forests have been harmed only after arrival of Britishers. See, students, Britishers came to India with lot of industrialization. And with lot of machines. And with these machines, they started cutting trees, harming forests. But before Britishers came, we were simple people. We were people living with forests in a very healthy manner, right? We had no machines to cut forests. But Britishers brought a lot of machines and started cutting forests for different purposes. So only after their arrival, forests were harmed in India. Before that, forests were intact most of the times.